When the Hoffmann program was developed, there were very few labels for the multitude of barriers to learning. Now we understand that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, traumatic brain injury, and premature birth are the cause of some learning difficulties. The Hoffmann program works successfully with these conditions, as well as other barriers to learning.
The Hoffmann program was developed by Dr. Lee Hoffmann in Cupertino. She was a special ed teacher, and I came by it because Lee is my aunt. The main population that she worked with was special ed, because she was a special ed teacher. She would have kids come to her, and they would help the traditional way and catch them up, and then send them back to the classroom, but the catch-up never held. And so she kind of was trying to figure out, what can I do? Why is this not sticking? Why are the kids still having trouble? She discovered that in order to create new neural pathways in the brain so the information that goes in can actually come back out, she figured out that she needed to work with the auditory, the visual, and the motor processing. It's not actually the eyesight or the hearing, but how the brain is interpreting what it's hearing and seeing.
Some of the signs of poor neural organization are easily distracted or inattentive, negative self-image, good at some subjects but poor in others, not performing to potential, demands of excessive attention, always getting ready but never finishing, disorganized, high verbal skills but difficulty writing, frustrated easily, inconsistent or complete lack of memory, negative attitude towards school.
After 20 years, she finally hit it. And she will tell you herself it was a lot of just plain luck and trial and error. But when she was sending these kids back to their classrooms, now it was sticking. They weren't coming back. They weren't losing the ground that they had gained. And that's where it started. It started because Lee herself had learning difficulties. She did make it through school, but she had to go up to every professor in college and ask them, will you give me this test orally? Because if you don't, I can't take your class, because I simply can't do that. And for her, and I hear this again in a lot of the children, and I don't know if it's actual test anxiety, but they get this buzz going in their ear, and they simply lose it. They can't take tests like that. They get anxious. And she was one of those. And she also said, I've got 2 kindergartners here with the same IQ, and one's doing great and the other one's not. And why is that? She likens it to the kids that are having difficulty learning. It's like they have pathways to walk on, while the rest of us have superhighways, and the information travels on these superhighways, but not so good on pathways. And so the information is in there. We've all had the experience where you're trying to remember something and you can't remember it, and 3 minutes later it comes flying in. Well, it just took a while to find a pathway to come back out. And that's great for you and me as adults. But when that happens to a 3rd grader and the teacher has just called on them, it's too late 3 minutes later. You've looked dumb in front of the class.
I feel that the Hoffmann program could really benefit students in a special education setting or in a regular classroom. Assisting students to become more proficient, to have more confidence about their learning, is really important.
Mostly the children I worked with were those who weren't quite qualifying for resource class, but they were still flunking. We worked with one recently, and she didn't qualify for resource, but she was still flunking and not happy. And she's only 4th grade. We don't want her walking away from school already or disengaging. So we worked with her for about a month. And her mom had told us stories. It's the same story we hear over and over. We refer to it as the homework nightmare. And these children come home. They don't want to do their homework. They start crying. They're apt to throw it across the room. They're miserable. They hate their mom. They hate their life. They hate everything because they have to do this homework that they don't get. And it's just horrible that parents have to force their children to do this. And this particular mom talks about how when her daughter came home, it was always her husband or grandma would have to help her every night. And after being in our program for a month, her mom asked her, "Hey, do you need some help with your homework?" And her response was, "No, I do remember now what I'm supposed to be doing." And the homework nightmare was over.
His attitude changed a whole lot. He's not, I put he's not aggressive no more. He's focused. He listens.
Homework was very stressful. All I'd have to do is say, Kylie, it's time for homework, and she would almost break down in tears. Just you set down a full page of work in front of her, and 10 problems of math would take 2 hours where it should be done in 5 or 10 minutes. She just did not like homework, and overwhelming of too much of it. But since she's been here, I say homework, and she sits right down, gets it done, and it's over with. So yeah, the house has been much happier because she is focusing much better than what she used to.
Most of the kids that we work with are really quite intelligent. The information gets jumbled and it doesn't come out. So basically, that's the premise. We're creating new neurocircuitry for the information that's in there to come back out. And we know it's in there because the children don't need tutoring when we're done. They've already got it. The teacher put it in there or the parents put it in there, but they haven't been able to get it back out.
Teachers, even last year to this year, wanting to diagnose her with ADHD, and the doctors has been sending the Vanderbilt papers to the teachers and having them fill them out. And they're always on the border of the doctors wanting to put her on the Ritalin. And I keep talking to him, say, no, I found the Hoffmann program. I talked to him about it the last meeting with the doctor, and he excused her from the Ritalin for another month to see how it's working. And I just keep fighting and fighting to keep her off of it and finding other options such as this to help her improve. And now you can give her more than one step at a time. You can tell her to go do the water dishes and feed the rabbits and more than one, up to 3/4, and she can do it without that big frustration of crying and being frustrated.
We worked with a 17-year-old several years ago. After 3 weeks in the program, he got in the car or the pickup with his mom after class, and he started crying. And his mom said, "Son, what's the matter?" And what he told her was, "I'm not stupid. I'm really not stupid, Mom." This poor child had thought for years that he was stupid and that he was hiding it from everybody. And for him to find out he wasn't stupid was really powerful. Most kids, adults, are in the program 2 to 3 months. It's rarely shorter, rarely longer, actually. So it's not a long process, and it sticks, which is one of the things people have trouble with. They can fix the problem momentarily, but it slides. The same problem that Lee found when she'd return those kids to their referring classroom, and they'd fall apart again. So that's pretty awesome to be able to work with people for such a short period of time and make such a huge impact. And to me, I feel so blessed that this little tiny bit of their life, we're talking 12 to 24 hours of this training, can change their life entirely, absolutely entirely.
Since she was in your program, she'd come home and do her own homework. Didn't really ask me much to help her anymore.
When I pick her up, I said, we're going to Karen's, which is the Hoffmann program. Yay! And she gets in the car and she really loves it.
If you think your child or a young person you know could benefit from the Hoffmann program, we can do an assessment to identify processing difficulties. Contact us through our website, happyenterprises.com, or by phone at 707-497-9001.